running towards the pain. I spend a lot of energy running away from pain in my life. I don't know about you. The pain of being misunderstood, the pain of, I didn't understand your text, but it was probably meant to hurt my feelings. The pain of, I didn't get what I wanted out of this negotiation, out of this deal. The pain of the assumption that you don't trust me. All different kinds of pain, from the small things to the large things. We invest a lot of energy in running away from. Here's the invitation. In those moments, instead of running away, instead of trying to protect yourself from the pain, if we run towards the pain, there's an opening, there's an opportunity to dispel it, to create something new. In the process of the learning that happens when we stop and check back in with the other person or people, instead of deciding for them what they meant and what they didn't mean. What if there's an opportunity to create heaven? I want to share a couple of stories with you today. And as you listen, remember a time when you were actually in a very similar story, because these are universal human situations. So a couple weeks ago, I sent an email to someone I work with asking for some very specific things and saying, hey, I'm not really happy right now with the way things are rolling out. Fast forward 10 days, I've heard nothing, no response from this email. So I'm starting to think, this is not a good place for me to be. This is a problem. I don't know what's happening. And we end up on a Zoom call together with a bunch of other people. I get a DM and he says, hey, I'm excited about this project you're going to be working on, blah, blah, blah. I DM back and say, I'm excited too. I'm also a little hurt and disoriented by the fact that you have not responded to my email and it's been 10 days. And then I get no response. In my brain, I'm like, what on earth? Seriously? So I just take a few deep breaths and I wait till the call's over. I text and say, hey, did you not answer my DM for a specific reason, or did you not get it? I'm really struggling over here. He called me immediately, because that is really who he is, and said, I didn't get your DM. I sent you one, but then you never responded. And I thought, I don't know what's going on. I wonder why she's not responding. And we ended up having a conversation about the whole thing. I was like, well, then there was this email, and then he's like, but you remember this also happened last week, and no excuses, but I was very caught up with this other situation. All of that to say, the willingness to step in and clarify and find out what was actually happening and not happening was huge. And at the end of the call, he said, hey, thanks for running towards the pain. So that's where I got the idea for this video, because it's such a common human experience. And I cannot tell you how many times in my life I've noticed my tendency to run away from the pain, but also just in connecting with people, talking to people, coaching people, the tendency to run away instead of to press in, to find out, to check in is enormous. So where do you see yourself in that story? Which end of that have you been on? Now let's go to the second story. I was sitting in a training room last month, and there was a young man in the training room who really was longing for a brand new relationship with his dad. He wanted an intimate, close relationship to be able to talk about things and be more vulnerable. And he had brought up his desire multiple times from his perspective to his dad and felt just shut down, like there wasn't a possibility. And they had a good relationship, but it wasn't the relationship that he longed for. As he's describing this and sharing this, the facilitator asked him, what do you imagine is on the other side of that conversation? If you went again, if you just decided to go again with your dad, what's the possibility on the other side of this conversation? And the young man said, heaven. Heaven's on the other side of this conversation as a possibility. It was this beautiful moment where, as I was sitting in the back of the room, I started recognizing how often we miss out on heaven because we're running from what we perceive to be hell. We're running from what we perceive to be pain. So many times in life, I think we leave relationships, careers, etc. We leave prematurely. And as the conversation went on, the young man at some point stood up and said, I need to go outside and I'm going to call my dad right now. which I loved the urgency. So he went out, came back in about 25 minutes later, and when he walked in the door, I could tell by the look on his face that he found the heaven he was looking for. He actually created the heaven he was looking for, opened the door for it to happen. And he had this new conversation with his dad. It was brand new. Now, I get it. Sometimes we go again and it doesn't turn out the way we want it. And the possibility is in the going again. It's in the running towards the pain, the perceived disappointment, instead of running away from it and hiding from it. And this moment transformed this young man's relationship with his dad and what's possible from now on with his father. I don't know what you want to call that, but I call that heaven. I call that a possibility of bringing beauty and life into a situation that looked impossible, that looked like it was just going to be something that, I don't know, he had to settle for and tolerate, instead of something that he could get excited about and really give himself to. What about you? When you think about running towards the pain, what do you think? What do you feel? What do you imagine? Because most of life happens in our imagination. Every single thing we worry about, stress about, conjure is just our thoughts. All of those different scenarios produce something in us. And if we don't hit the pause button and stop and say, well, what actually is going on for the other person? What information do I not have? And you know what? Maybe it is what you thought it was in the beginning. And maybe it's not. What will it take to be generous enough with your assumptions to run towards the pain next time? Because I guarantee you it'll happen again. I've talked often about pain, and again, not a masochist. I'm a realist though, because life is fraught with all different kinds of pain. It's also fraught with all different kinds of beauty and connection as well. So if you are struggling with any kind of pain right now and you need support, resource in navigating it, check out this playlist that we made for you, all about pain, all different kinds of pain. It's about the human experience. So let me ask you a favor. 3 things that really, really help the videos get more views, more connections with the people they need to get to. Like, comment, share. You could do 1, you could do all 3. I would love it if you did all 3 because I'd love to hear your comments. But please consider sharing with somebody important to you today.